When looking through the history of NASCAR as a whole, many races instantly pop out as instant classics. The 1979 and 1976 Daytona 500s, the 2003 Carolina Dodge Dealers 400, the 2001 Pepsi 400, the 1992 Hooters 500, the 2001 Cracker Barrel 500, and the 1984 Talladega 500. These are just some of the greatest races ever. And one thing that makes these races stand out is the legacy they leave. Something that isn't realized until at least a decade after they happened. The mid-2000s recently have been getting highlighted for not only their nostalgia, but for the races slipping past the double-decade mark and entering into classics discussion. The 2004 Ford 400, the 2005 Daytona 500, and various other races are slowly moving up people's ranks as they slip further and further into the past. This leads into the COT era, or the Car Tomorrow, approaching this era of judging them as being a classic now. And that makes me wonder, what is the greatest race of that era? For those not sure of what era I'm talking about specifically, I'm talking about the 2008 to 2012 era. A 5-year stretch where NASCAR began flatlining in popularity after decline from the recession, before quickly firing into decline again from 2014 onwards. But what is the greatest race of this era? The one event that consistently is highlighted and features the most star power. After deliberation, I came to a not so surprising answer. The 2011 AdvoCare 500. For some, this choice is underwhelming, and probably disagreed with. But when looking at it, this race has borderline everything. A milestone win, legendary battle, consistent racing throughout, the incredible star power, and a perfectly aged track surface allowing for the greatest drivers to showcase everything they have, and to encapsulate it all, it was run on a Tuesday. The crowd for this race was under 30,000. Poetic that such an amazing race was only witnessed by so few live. This was due to Tropical Storm Lee, which drenched much of the East Coast, causing localized flooding through the week. 30+ hours of waiting finally led to an opening in weather on Tuesday. Mist still threatened the track that day, but many were excited to finally get racing.
Race fans, it's time for those most famous words in motorsports. Here to give the command, please welcome our Grand Marshals, President and CEO of AdvoCare, Richard Wright, and Distributor Relations for AdvoCare, Sherry Wright.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the AdvoCare 500 at the Atlanta Motor Speedway. We're excited to be having a race today, and we know you are too. I want to give a special greeting to our AdvoCare distributors across the country and say thank you for all you do every day. Now let's have a race.
Gentlemen,
spark your engines!
It's race day finally. Drivers are in their cars and getting ready to duel it out. The command has officially been given, and they prep for a run to the lap 30 competition caution. As Casey Kane leads the field off of turn 4, we go green in Atlanta.
Dave Blaney and Mike Skinner have changed rides for the day. Blaney suffering from some kidney stones. He's in the 60. He'll do a start and park. Blaney in the 36. Day and a half late. We are going green in Atlanta.
Bowyer and Kane ride side by side all around lap 1 before Kane sails it in the 1 and confirms his lead. Kenseth, Truex, and Gordon argue about the 5th place position, with Kenseth winning outright. Gordon soon shoots past Truex as well, and now the track is really beginning to widen out. Tire wear is a massive concern as lap times are dropping off by over a second in 5 laps. Kenseth and Kurt Busch start the race hard for 6th, as Montoya rips the rim. Kenseth now is fading, almost pinching Truex as he slips to 8th. His teammate Carl Edwards looks 3 and slows behind Truex going into the corner, slipping past the 17 as well. Back up front, Gordon has slipped up to 3rd now, and by lap 11 is stalking the Toyota duo at the front. Suddenly though, off of turn 4.
About how they might perform here today.
I think Jeff Gordon is really on the move.
That's Bobby Labonte.
Through the grass.
And the caution is out.
2000 Cup champion Bobby Labonte goes for a ride. And whilst wet and grassy, Bobby is all good and ready to continue at his best track. This caution puts many of the lead cars in a weird decision. Do you pit here? The 2-second fall off is almost an obvious answer, but you can steal the track position as well. Kane stays out along with various others, and Kyle Busch and Jeff Gordon come down pit road with other tire-hungry drivers. All except Kurt Busch and Ryan Newman take 4 tires that come down, and Tony Stewart was one of the many that gave up tires for a ton of track position. But now, he's going to be the gatekeeper of the old tire guys, trying not let through Jeff Gordon and the fresh tire group. Kane and Boyer duplicate the start with Kane on the outside, and they go back green. They go 4 wide on the restart. Kane plummets back. Allmendinger touches the fence and goes 4 wide, smashing the car into turn 3. David Starr in the 95 thinks better of it and bails out of the hurricane of cars. At the front now, Boyer leads over Vickers, whilst Kane is back to 4th, and Kyle Busch is blazing a trail on the high side. 11 laps to the comp caution, and now Brian Vickers charges to the inside. Kyle now catches Montoya, and Brian can't get by Clint. Kyle Busch with 9 to go is now 5th. Vickers weasels the wall, and now pressures Boyer. Here comes Hamlin now. Going back down into turn 1, Brian sends it down into the corner. He slides up the track and almost catches the wall on exit. Boyer and Hamlin now charge past, with the 11 looking on Clint. Brian regroups, and now Kyle Busch is catching all 3 of them. Hamlin goes to the inside and slips up a tad, but stays right there with him. Hamlin gets under him on lap 25, and now Kyle Busch is in 3rd. It eventually becomes inevitable. Kyle Busch passes both Boyer and Hamlin and grabs the lead on lap 28. Jeff Gordon is now rim riding as he tries to grab 2nd before the yellow. He isn't able to, and the comp caution comes out with a Gibbs 1-2. For some on this competition caution, it's their first stops. Others, it's their second. Every car comes in for the top 20, and it's 4 tires and fuel. Kyle's off first with David Starr, who missed his stall 2nd. Hamlin will be in the provisional 2nd place, and Denny could have won the race off pit road, but lost it almost piling into the 95 of David Starr, who, as said before, missed his pit stall. Robbie Gordon under this caution will be the lucky dog, and on lap 35 the race restarts, and Hamlin botches it completely. They go 3x3 through turn 2, and then they fly over the backstretch bumps. It's tight in the next lap again. A.J. Allmendinger is the meat in the sandwich, and up front Kyle and Jeff are pulling away. Busch is stalked by his hero and current rival, and Hamlin back at the pack is trying desperately to fight back his track position that he lost during the restart fumble. Even though that happened, he's still not as far off as Jimmy Johnson, who runs 16th. He's riding side by side with the franchise, who's the winner of the 2009 Coca-Cola 600. As the track shades darker with rubber, it appears drivers are finally starting to settle in. The top 2 are still fighting. Gordon high, Kyle low, wiggling looser and looser. On lap 46, Jeff Gordon comes up there, to the outside, and in the one he clears, becoming different leader number 6 on the day. This has already happened before lap 50, showing the competitive nature of the field. Gordon, however, gets the biggest lead of the day, as Kyle leads the other 3 drivers in the Sprint Summer Showdown. That is a sweepstakes held by the Cup Series title sponsor Sprint to try and see if you can win $3 million as a driver. The other ones besides Kyle are Brad Keselowski, Paul Menard, and Marcos Ambrose. Kevin Harvick, meanwhile, has now found the 3rd place position, and Stewart rides 4th, catching Kevin slowly. Tony has been busy this week. He had just gotten done running a sprint car in DuQuoin at Illinois State Fairgrounds, and then he went over to watch the NHRA event the next day. Hamlin, who fell back on the restart, is barely holding on the 6th now. And by the 100-mile mark into the race at Atlanta, Jeff has a 3-second lead. He's by leagues far better than his other Hendrick teammates. Johnson is the next best in 22nd, racing fallen pole sitter Casey Kane. Jimmy is insanely loose now, reporting that the rear is gone, as nearing 20 seconds behind Jeff Gordon. Dale Jr. is next in 28th, saying the car drives like it's bent. And then behind him in 29th is Mark Martin. Back up in 3rd, Stewart and Harvick are slugging it out with Hamlin in there as well. By lap 77, pit stops are beginning now, with Brad Keselowski first. After that, it's a party in the pits. 2nd place Kyle Busch is in now on lap 78, and now Jeff Gordon is in after. Kyle Edwards takes a temporary lead from him now, and Hamlin has followed Gordon in. He has to back up to get out of his stall, and now Carl Edwards comes down. With that, the cycle is already over, and the 24 is back out in front. Kyle Busch has now whittled the lead down to 2.5 seconds, and much of it is from coming down pit lane so fast he almost ran into a lap car. By lap 90, Jeff Gordon is lapping past teammate Dale Earnhardt Jr., and another driver is within 3 seconds of him now. It's Jimmy Johnson. He's battling a young Joey Logano, who, like Johnson, gets saved by the misfortune of a champion. Bobby Labonte, like off a turn 4, loses it, and this time, his day is done. Regan Smith gets the lucky dog, however, over Dale Earnhardt Jr., and now pit stops begin once again. Gordon again wins the race off pit road, with Kenseth and Hamlin behind him. The field doubles up again and are ready for another restart. They are neck and neck through 1 and 2, and Kyle sails it into turn 3. Gordon pinches him, and they stay side by side in the front stretch. Jeff finally clears, and once again the track is fast. Meanwhile, Greg Biffle is top 15 now, charging from the back after an engine change, and his racing teammate Carl Edwards. Tony Stewart, meanwhile, has fell back from the stops, and is giving a pep talk to his crew.
All right, guys, we'll get those back. Don't worry about it. It's early. 10-4, bud. It's early. Sorry about that. Make it up to you. All right, guys. Keep your heads up here. We've got a long day still here. We will get these back.
He races Casey Kane, who's even further adrift now from his opening run speed. And the race starts settling in again as the progress towards the 200-mile mark continues. AJ Allmendinger now runs 6th at a track he claims is his best oval. AJ has never won on an oval, and he says a win today for him would be huge. Kurt Busch is 7th, racing David Reagan, who claimed his first win this year at Daytona in July. Back up in 2nd is Kyle Busch and Matt Kenseth, fighting one another with Matt claiming it. On the pit lane is the franchise, who has an issue that is more than likely ending his day. Shortly after that, a caution comes out for debris off of Andy Lawley's car, slowing the pace for the 4th time. With the debris caution, Dale Jr. gets the lucky dog, and will be put back on the lead lap. As the field comes down under the caution, things have changed. Gordon has a slow stop and comes out 4th, whilst Kenseth wins the race off. As they come through the tri-oval, Kyle gets a good jump, but will be blacked if he beats Kenseth to the line. He lifts, checking up the entire field, and suddenly...
Matt Kenseth catches back up to him.
Yeah, and there goes Harvick around. Man, he saved it somehow. I don't know how he did I don't either. I don't understand how he saved that car.
A Hall of Fame save in the 1, and we're still green. Kyle gives back the lead, and races Gordon now for 2nd. The field finally roars up to full pace, and they show the replay. Harvick's save from the onboard is out of this world. With how sideways he got, smoking the rear tires, it is a miracle the whole field didn't pile up right there. And now we can keep racing. In the pits, Casey Kane is overheating, and it appears his day is done now. He hit something on track, which knocked the radiator out. Kenseth leads, and Stewart, who took advantage of the chaos, is up 5 spots on the restart. Penske cars slip and slide as Harvick tries to drive back by both of them. The Deuces are racing hard, with the now frugal Jimmy Johnson appearing behind them. On lap 146, Jeff Gordon roars back by Kenseth for the lead. And again, he is showing he's the dominant car. Eventually in 3rd, Denny Hamlin prevails to the front with David Reagan behind him. It's all caused by Kyle Busch brushing the wall and checking up himself and his teammate. Edwards soon passes Reagan though, and starts to close in on Hamlin. Kevin Harvick passes Reagan as well soon, and now David is falling into the clutches of Jimmy Johnson. Kyle Busch is really beginning to struggle now as Carl and Johnson make passes for position in the top 10. The race now has crossed over the halfway mark as Kenseth and Edwards pass the 24 for the lead. Hamlin soon gets Gordon as well, and the 24 is really beginning to fade. Carl now is beginning to reel in Matt, but the battle is soon to be interrupted by green flag pit stops. Every team is in eventually as the Roushketeers continue on battling. Carl now pits and comes in as the 17 starts to lose mass amounts of track position. On pit lane, the 34 David Gillen though spins out and is stopped with the window net down. It is apparent that they're going to wait until pit stops are over, so a caution is now inevitable. Just before the inevitable caution is going to be called for David Gilliland, mist begins to fall on the track. Eventually the last few people pit and caution is called for David Gilliland. Carl Edwards now paces as the leader, and the mist is now a sprinkle, putting this race in risk of being called. Finally the race does restart after mass amounts of pacing, and Truex sends it into turn 1. He gains 3 spots from it, whilst Harvick and Gordon race hard. Gordon goes back high, and Harvick gets him through 3. Up in 9th is Johnson passing Hamlin, who's now riding behind Truex, who also loses 8th to him. 6th is now David Reagan and Brad Keselowski, with Reagan losing 6th and 7th from both Brad and Jimmy. Up front, Carl and Matt duel hard. The Roushketeers slip and slide before Carl gets low of Matt. Back in 6th, Jimmy grabs it away from Brad, moving closer to the front. Caution soon comes out again, however, for the mist, and cars come down the pit. Everyone stays the same relatively besides Jeff Gordon. He falls nearly 5 spots, and now is the furthest back he's been all day. Kyle Busch has aero damage from the wall impact, and says the handle has completely gone away. They can't see anything wrong and they send him back out. Meanwhile, back on track, JJ Yeley and Landon Castle are leading, putting them in the possibility of winning if the race was called. The miracle story becomes more and more of a reality as the cars come down the pit, and drivers do get out of the car. The rain has already stopped, and track drying is already nearing completion. This fairy tale becomes a fantasy, and within 10 minutes, the drivers are already back in their cars. During this, Carl Edwards and Matt Kenseth have a unique conversation on the radio.
Hey, buddy. What's happening back there? You were going to let me go. Why, do you want me to? Well, of course, yeah. That would be the polite thing to do. Okay. All right. Yeah, I'm just messing with you, man. It's fun racing with you. It's pretty cool. Yeah, man, it's real weird. So I get through 1 and 2 pretty fast, you know, and I get about 3 car lengths, and then we get off for 4, and you're right on me. I can't hit that turn 3 thing right for anything. Kind of changes a lot through the run, too, you know. All right, well, have fun, man. Hopefully we can be 1-2 here, one way or another.
The cars pull back on track, and now we're going to get ready to go green. After some more pacing, and Yaley and Landon-Castle pitting, the restart comes on lap 220. It's on again. Harvick's 3 wide leads to a battle for second off of 2. They both close on Matt, with 3 cars dueling. Rain is sprinkling all over them, and Carl clears. Matt starts screaming about rain, and again the caution is called. The rain is hard again, and everyone is beginning to settle on the idea of this race ending. The rain stops, however, and many back stragglers come in. After more track drying, we again go green with 94 laps to go. Mark Martin has a moment in the back, and now Jimmy Johnson strikes up to the second place position. Kozlowski rides 4th now, and Jeff Gordon races hard with David Reagan and Jamie McMurray. Brian Vickers and Kurt Busch race hard in the mid-pack, and Johnson has now caught Matt. They have a close moment off of 2, and Matt walks away just a tad. Carl comes back now, and Jimmy regroups going low in the 1 again. The 48 slips up the track, and now his teammate is up to 5th. Biffle and Boyer race for the 11th place spot, slipping around on the greasy Atlanta track. The top 3 are under a blanket, with Johnson basically pushing the 17. Meanwhile, the fastest car on track is Jeff Gordon. Edwards attacks Jimmy, but the 48 rides the top and makes a charge at Kenseth. Side by side off of 2 and equal through 3 and 4. They're close across the line now, and Carl is going to make a run in the 1, but suddenly Boyer hits the wall. The battle is coming to an end along with Clint's day. He came up in front of Juan Pablo Montoya, hooking himself in the wall. Apparently there was some history before this, but regardless of whose fault it is, pit stops ensue again. Truex takes 2 tires and wins the race off pit lane. Edwards 2nd, and the Hendrick duo is 3rd and 4th. Martin Truex Jr. is going to take a shot at it to get what could be his 2nd career victory. He has 20 hungry drivers with 4 tires behind him. As the cars pass by, Boyer applauds Montoya for what happened, and then gives this interview before the restart.
You were going back and forth for a while, Clint. What happened there? It looked like either you didn't know you weren't clear, or he just crowded you.
No, I was tied up off the corner, and we fought tight the whole run. It's just, you can't race around the jackass. You never can. Anybody in this sport knows what you're up against when the 42 comes up. He dive bombs the starts and you know, bullies his way up in there, and before you know it, he's in the way and wrecking with somebody. And unfortunately, I was a victim this week. It's just a shame. You know, we're out here racing for a spot in the chase. He's racing for nothing, you know, and I'm tired of it. Everybody in the garage area fights him. He's just an idiot.
You going to be able to get back out, Clint?
I don't even care.
Jimmy Johnson sends it to take the lead, and Truex fights Kenseth and loses to 4th. With 76 to go, David Reagan blows up, and then on the backstretch.
Sure enough, he takes it to a coast on pit road.
Regan Smith
slams the wall, and his day appears to be over now as well. Mark Martin misjudged it and completely dumped the 78 down the backstretch. A few pit along with Kyle Busch, trying to find something wrong on the car. They investigate some more and find nothing at first glance. The 2005 Spring Atlanta finish line up side by side and get ready for yet another Atlanta Classic. Roush is on the inside, Hendrick on the outside, and through 1, Martin Truex Jr. goes 3 wide. Matt gets put in the middle and clips Jeff Gordon, who goes wide on the exit to save it. Johnson clears, and in a story as old as the first chase, Johnson has to hold off Roush drivers at Atlanta. Stewart is out of line, riding the fence early on in the run, and Gordon is off and running, passing Truex now for 4th. Biffle and Harvick fight for position, with both of them catching Hamlin. The Penske cars catch Truex and turn it into a 3-car battle. Martin loses both spots and begins to fade fast now. Dale Earnhardt Jr. and Mark Martin struggle in the back, and now Jeff Gordon climbs to 3rd. He's by far the fastest car on track, and it's only Carl to get to the leader. Tony Stewart and Greg Biffle fire past the 56, and now McMurray is 3 wide off of 4. They are also 3 wide in the 1, and Jeff Gordon now grabs 2nd. They're riding high, wide, and fast, and Kyle Busch and Paul Menard are racing hard for 20th. Kurt and Matt Kenseth race hard now, with Brad Keselowski soon attacking as well. The Penskes are rolling through the top 10, while the Roushketeers are fading. Kurt Busch is riding the top hard, maybe an inch from the wall at some points. The only guy riding the wall faster is Jeff Gordon, bearing down on teammate Jimmy Johnson. Hamlin soon is passing Kenseth, following him back to 7th, telling Jimmy Fenning it is plowing tight. Carl now is under attack from the Penskes, and his best friend Brad Keselowski's there to try and pass him. Jimmy and Jeff race hard now, with Jimmy blocking Jeff's top line dominance. Jeff counters with a bottom feeding technique, and Jimmy holds on, slipping and sliding right by the wall. Gordon power slides the bottom, and in the 3 he sends it and is side by side with 50 laps to go. Gordon is able to hold it through turns 1 and 2, and he clears through 3 and 4. Jeff Gordon has grabbed the lead once again, but he is worried now. Tony and Matt slip around off of 4, and the 14 files Matthew back another position. Jeff's worries now get voiced, saying a vibration is continuing to get worse. He comes across the line as the fastest car on track, but still there's concern. Jeff says it is unbearable, and that it's bad enough to make him pit now. Alan Gustafson says that they can pit, but he would like 10 more laps from him. He stays out 2 more, and then Chad notices the struggle. Jimmy Johnson comes in first. They're going to try and flip it on Jeff, and Gordon reacts the next lap, coming in with 41 to go. Every car is pitting right now, whilst Brad stays out and leads another lap. 40 to go now, and Jeff and Jimmy are nearly on top of one another on the pit exit. Kyle Busch, meanwhile, serves a pass-through for a commitment line violation, and now the inaugural truck champion, Mike Skinner, leads. As Skinner pits, David Starr nearly takes out Jeff Gordon as they lap by him, and suddenly the mist begins falling once more. Alan Gustafson, looking up at the sky, breathes a sigh, and they go by Landon Castle now. After 290 laps, the deficit is only 5/10, and Kurt Busch is flying around the top groove, trying to reel in the Hendrick duo. As the skies darken little by little, Edwards and Keselowski race hard for 4th again. Tony Stewart cuts it close and flies by the ailing Kenseth for 8th. The 2 and 99 continue to race as they approach 25 to go. Carl claims it back now, and Kevin Harvick catches Denny Hamlin, now trying to grab 6th. 21 to go now, and Gordon's lead is 2 seconds over Johnson. It's at this point that the significance of Gordon's win begins to settle in a little bit. This would be career win number 85 for him. A record, in terms of the modern era that is. Currently he is tied with Darrell Waltrip as the most winless driver all time since 1972. That's when the modern era began for NASCAR. And with his 85th win, it would put him past Darrell Waltrip, and put him 3rd all time, tying him with Bobby Allison. It's an achievement that, whilst not the all-time record, is something that most likely will never happen again. The only other man that has an obvious chance right now to even hit 85 besides Jeff Gordon is the man behind him, Jimmy Johnson. With 15 to go, Clint Bowyer pulls out a modified, and at the line the deficit is 1.2 seconds. Jimmy has gained 8/10 now, and with 11 laps to go, the gap at the line is 3/10, and now it's on. Jeff says the car is lost, it's super loose, and Jimmy is going to pounce on this opportunity. He sails it in with 10 to go, and Johnson slides. Gordon holds him off, and he's going to have to brawl his teammate to try and win it. 9 laps to go now, and Alan Gustafson watches on as the 5-time reigning champion stalks his driver. 8 to go, and lap traffic disrupts the air, and Jeff goes low on Marcos. Ambrose formula drifts off of turn 4 as the leaders lap by him. Jimmy's now trying to pounce on the rear end of Jeff Gordon, and they sail on the 1 again. One is high, the other is low, and they both slide off of the exit. The commitment is high, and they exchange lanes through 3. They come down to 5 laps to go now, and again Johnson is low, pushing hard. Both slide again, and Gordon blocks Jimmy, but he packs the air on Gordon's quarter panel. They are tight off of the exit now, neck and neck at the line with 4 laps to go. Gordon sails it deep, and Johnson off of exit almost spins. Jimmy takes a stab at the high side through turns 3 and 4, and he can't do it, and now we come to 3 laps to go. Jimmy goes back low again on Jeff, and Jeff goes all the way to the wall using every inch of the track, but he holds on. Jimmy slides again, chasing the 24. With win 85 on the line, can the 48 get it?
What's the wiggle going to be that costs Gordon the win, or Johnson the chance to make a run at him? Lost some time there.
Yeah, Jimmy said, I got to try something. Yeah, that's where he made up a lot of this time.
2 to go.
Looks like they may not catch this traffic before the end of the race. But it's probably still affecting their cars. They're close enough. Johnson gets a big run off for 2 now.
Coming to the white flag. So far, Gordon's been able to hold him off. Can he do it for another lap and a quarter? Johnson's gotten a big run off turn 4 several times on Gordon, but not been able to finish the pass. He slides this time.
By 3, white flag.
Last lap. Gordon gaining some ground. Can he hang on?
Jimmy Johnson sideways as he went to the gas hard. Look at him.
Sliding off the corner. Half a lap to go. There is lap traffic ahead. We've had fantastic finishes in Atlanta. Will this be another side-by-side run to the checkers? It's going to be a sideways run to the checkers. Johnson tries to get there, can't get it done. Career win number 85. Jeff Gordon third on NASCAR's all-time win list.
Wow.
An iconic moment. And in those 10 laps, Tony Stewart gains 5 seconds and passed all the way up to third. Gordon wins. Johnson second, Tony Stewart third, Kurt Busch fourth, and Carl Edwards fifth. An absolutely iconic top 5. Alan Gustafson is amped up after that win, and Jimmy Johnson is shaking after that finish. He fought a car for 500 miles that was awful, and at the end, Jeff Gordon is taking a celebratory lap that might take all night. He is burning the car to the ground, and he drives to the front stretch victory lane. He climbs out and celebrates in front of the few fans that are still left. This race may be perhaps the perfect encapsulation of this time in NASCAR. It featured many of the stars of the past, whilst many of the present as well, along with many that still dominate the sport today. Between every driver in this field, there's over 790 combined career victories, 23 championships, and 18 Daytona 500s. There's an F1 winner, an Australian V8 supercar winner, sports car drivers, and Indy 500 champions. This is the COTS greatest race.
At the beginning of a run, and we just, we used it up there at the end, and I was slipping and sliding. The track really changed a lot after that rain delay. Our car was real tight, and we had to free it up. But nice job, man.
That's Jimmy Johnson, by the way, on the stage pointing at you and congratulating. That's what you're talking about.
I tell you what, that was a lot of fun racing with him. I mean, I was slipping, he was slipping. The throttle control was very tough there at the end, and a couple moments where I really thought he got us. But what an incredible victory for this drive-in Hunger Chevrolet. And I know we spoiled the sprint showdown. So I didn't mind sitting back there for a while waiting to get over here to Victor Lane because it was just an incredible day. And, man, this team is on a roll.